So happy to have the gang all here today. You're all alive and well. My goodness,
Yes.
that movie is something else, and it's so intense. And I was, and you're wondering, what you're going into, but then once you get through the journey, you're thinking, oh, that was so cool. But I'll bet like the ride is bumpy sometimes on set too, right? With independent film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Always. Oh, there's always something. There's always a puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
It's all part of the fun.
Yeah, but it is part of the fun, and to play these characters is kind of fun too, because quite a bit different from you, right?
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
always find strangely some similarities between yourself and the characters, and that's really just such a joy to be able to do what we do. Is they may feel so different in such different circumstances from yourself, but you have to, it's the empathy. You put yourself in their shoes and understand their perspective.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or a part of you, for me, a part of you that maybe you don't know that you have or don't express in your own daily life, and kind of getting to exercise that and then take a little bit of it with you when you go home is great. It's such a pleasure.
Keep your nose piercing, Taylor.
Yeah.
That one, I'll leave that one.
Yeah. And Sophia, does that mean you're that good of a shot?
I mean, I definitely
Have you
feel like
practiced this?
I have this newfound confidence that I'm like, yeah, I can hold a gun now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I never touched one before, but it's always cool you always bring something with you after these experiences. And I think it just continues to fuel your work and even just fuel who you are as a human being and see what you're
Mhm.
capable of. And it's, you look back and we made this movie in 14 days. I mean,
Wow.
that's an incredibly short timeline for something that was that emotionally, physically demanding. And we
Yeah.
incorporated a lot of stunts. We had stunt doubles. We had action sequences. I mean, you saw shootout sequences. It's a very ambitious movie, and to be able to do that in 14 days is a testament of everybody's ability and really Traci just leading the ship.
Yeah. Well, Tracy, tell us about this adventure about getting this to the screen and that quickly too.
Yeah, it was not for the faint of heart. It was yeah, it all came together really quickly. It was a unique project because I was involved from the inception of the log line through the whole development process through post. So I was very, hands-on in the thick of it at the very beginning of it. And I'm not a writer, so I worked with two lovely writers, Sarah Eisenberg and Becky Wingberg, who wrote the scripts. And we had such a, they basically pitched the log line to Tubi and through with Mar Vista, and they greenlit the movie. And they had 3 weeks to write the script. So yeah,
Mm.
it was
Wow.
crazy.
Well,
It
despite all
was
that, I
too.
mean, sometimes these sets can be treacherous, but sometimes it can be so much fun. And I bet each of you have some good memories from the set. So, do each of you have a good memory from the set you think you'll always take with you?
I just remember with night shoots, something starts to happen where everybody gets like a little tired but wired. And Taylor and I spent a lot of time together doing these like very, very emotional scenes.
Mhm.
Like 3/4 of this movie, I'm crying. But we were able to find such fun and joy. I just remember there was a scene where we're with our father and we're in the Chinese restaurant before he gets killed, and we just cracked a joke. We would just look at each other and just start laughing for no particular reason. And I think it was just this incredible bond that we created after just spending so much time together and finding so much fun in the midst of just like such a difficult shoot, such difficult scenes, is you have to find the fun and the joy in it. And I think that just stood out to me as being just a really fun moment. But also like our first scene together was at the end of I think our my first day or something, and it's a really intimate moment when I'm putting band-aids on her scars, and that
Mhm.
was such a nice sort of starting point for the two of us to really just dial in and be there together. And I think that really set the tone for such a great 3 weeks of working together. But there's so many, those were just the ones that came to mind.
Yeah, Taylor, what comes to your mind?
That's so funny. The same night
Of course.
to my mind, because we're supposed to be having this like very serious scene, and when the cameras are on, we are in the Chinese restaurant, and then between takes when they're moving stuff around, and both of our eyes are closed, our heads are back on the seats, and we're just like singing Adele. So that was pretty funny. I don't know, there's so many, like on a shoot like this where everything is so hard and fast, like for me, that is the fun of it. That is the joy of it, because everybody gets brought together in a very close way. Like we were all living in the same hotel. There was only like two regal large hotels in the whole town, and so everybody, cast and crew, was put up at this single one. And so, we're all working together all night, and then we get home and all have together and then try to sleep as much as we can. But like one of the coolest moments was actually our last day of shooting. It was a night shoot, and we were in this incredible abandoned pool that some of the people in the town told Traci about. She was like, "Where do you go if you want to cause trouble and hang out?" And they said, "Well, come check this place out. It's like tattooed. It's got graffiti all over it. Like it's falling apart." And we're trying to shoot the scene that takes place at night at like 4 a.m, and we're racing the light, and everybody is scrambling, and it's this big party scene, and we're all having fun, and there's just this charge in the air, and wrapping that just as the sun rose, and we wrapped the whole film, and it was just a big party. Sophia and I brought some champagne. We popped it to everybody. The
Nothing like
brought a cake. Everybody, there was just such a feeling of celebration in such a strange land that you only get, I don't know, you only get through filmmaking, and also like just this kind of filmmaking where everybody is doing so much to make it happen, putting their like hearts and souls and minds and bodies into it night after night, day after day, and really doing an exemplary job of having a fantastic attitude.
Yeah,
it was cool.
that's great. And for you, Traci?
I know, nothing like drinking champagne and cake at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Day and night, day, all the same.
That definitely stood out. It was such a roller coaster. It was so fast. I mean, it was so fast, and so, just every day. It was such a ride. That's a great question, because there's so many moments during that shoot that were just like, pure collaborative and getting people together and just being, in awe of what we were able to do with the crew and the time and the limited resources. So I think the night before we started shooting, we all got together, like the whole cast, the whole crew, people were meeting for the first time. That kind of stood out to me as sort of a fun moment where it kind of set the tone for the show, because we were all in this the only restaurant in town basically, like that could, and we took over the restaurant. We were all just, it was sort of like a wedding. It was like a wedding, because I was going from table to table, meeting everybody and shaking hands and just getting a chance to meet. I feel like, Sofia, that was the first time. Yeah, that's the first time I met you in person.
We met.
Yeah, the day before the shoot. So insane.
Dive right in, nose first. We just go for it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, speaking of which, we talked to a lot of great actors, directors, writers, and this stuff is inspirational to people. They see a movie like this, or they hear the story and they think, "See, I want to do this," but it's so much harder than you can imagine. But what kind of advice would each of you give to somebody that wants to follow in your footsteps?
Oh, wow.
I would say, yeah, it's a great question. prepare as much as you can and do
Mhm.
everything in your power to create the world that your character, their backstory, whatever is necessary for you to feel good on the day, because things change and there's chaos and there's movement and there's noise, and you're going to have to block it out and you're going to have to be focused on the here and the now and play with your scene partner. So the best thing you can do is prepare as much as you can. Do everything that you have control over, because a lot of the time there's a lot of stuff happening around you that you have zero control over. I had less than 3 days to prepare for this role. And due to circumstances outside of all of our control, and I did what I could, but I also was so lucky to fall in the hands of Traci and the team, and Taylor, and all my scene partners were incredible. And this casting crew, they were just so wonderful. So I was so lucky to have that to support me, because I was really terrified, because I had very little time, and I like to prepare. I like to have time to really dive in and create this person, because you're creating a human being. And I didn't have the luxury of time, but also I was able to really trust my instincts with this and ask questions, ask for help. And, being there with Traci just knew exactly what she wanted. And she offered this pitch deck, essentially, that was like 130 pages long, with everything you needed to know about the world that we were creating, from, films used as examples, or just visually what we were going for, what the color palettes were for each character. So it was so nice to have a sort of starter pack really to kind of go, because you don't typically get that. And so, yeah, just doing what you can to make you feel like you have a sense of the world, and then be able to abandon it too. Because if you cling too hard to your prep, if you cling too hard to things, you can't really enjoy the process. And that was something that after about day 3, I was able to breathe. So it's usually after the 3rd day, I'm like, all right, now I understand what's happening here. Now I understand the flow of production. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Good. How about for you, Taylor?
I really love what you said, Sophia. And I would say, to build on that, do your prep, play, and then stay objective. That's what saves me in any environment. I think it's really easy to get too high on the good days and get too low on the not so good days. So to take everything as positive information for moving forward, and then from there to just keep going. Like, whether you're working on a project like this, no matter what kind of actor you want to be, love it, play, stay objective, and keep going. That's all you can do. Yeah, that's what I would say. And that's what Traci did such a good job of doing, is or helped me do that as well, because like Sophia said, she knew exactly what she wanted. And in that, you give a positive feedback the same way that you give an adjustment, in the same tone, the same, it's because it creates a sense of freedom. There is no doing well and there is no doing poorly. You're just able to be. And that I've never experienced, and I deeply appreciate.
Oh, that's so cool. Traci, what'd you say?
I mean, that's yeah. I didn't realize, the one thing I always want is create a safe space, like for everybody, not just the actors, but just like the crew, and like they mentioned earlier, laughing. And so I would say to emerging filmmakers and directors, you're going to get a lot more no's than you are yeses. And it's going to get really hard at times, and you're going to be discouraged, and people are going to look at you and think you're too young, or you're too old, or you're too this or that. And I think a lot of it comes down to just giving yourself permission, getting out of your own way, allowing yourself to take risks and not give up. And I know that those are maybe big conceptual ideas, but like at a micro level, it's like doing the work every day and sharpening those tools and reading scripts and watching movies and being a student of learning and being curious and, applying yourself as much as possible and meeting as many people. A lot of it, unfortunately, it's not just about your talent. It also is about the people that you meet along the way that give you the opportunity, especially as a director. We talk about control and, what there's a lot that I still don't have control over. It's like the budget, the time, the studio, all those things that, sometimes you just don't have control over. And so, it's just starting one day at a time, meeting people, connecting, being in a place like Los Angeles to meet those people. I think it all comes down to all the things we talk about, which is the work. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. We talk about that on the show as well, that success mindset that you have to have, whether or not you're feeling it or not. And us creative types, we're notoriously so hard on ourselves. So
Yes.
is there something that each of you tell yourself that kind of keeps you on that right path? And, because I know you're sitting there going, oh, it's 14 days. Are we ready? Can we do this? No,
So yeah. I was gonna say it's a lot of it's a lot of listening to like I'm trying to think of the person's name, just like podcasts, like pumping
Yeah.
yourself up and going on walks and like listening to like really epic soundtracks to like, just I don't know. I think
I love that.
I love that
No.
so much.
going just, and I think it's also having like mentality where, for me anyway, it's like sticking true to my gut and just like every decision, every moment, everything that comes up, every curveball, it's like whatever my gut is telling me. Sometimes I don't listen to it, but I'm like that I have to just sit there. It's like it's a guttural sort of, you just dive in 150%, and you put the blinders on and you just focus, and I don't know how else to do it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything you tell yourself.
God, I think of like acting and performing and being a part of and storytelling really is it's a form of kind of athleticism. Like
Mhm.
it's an endurance sport where you're really sort of sprinting to the finish line, especially on something like this, so intense that I definitely feel like you just have to keep working at it. There's a level of consistency that is so needed and to stay in the game, regardless of what that looks like. If it's a matter of being in class, like I'm always in acting classes, I'm always working with my friends, I always try to just encourage people to keep the muscles warm, however that looks. Traci was saying reading scripts, watching movies, looking up to people who you admire and how they do what they do, just constantly working at it. So then when the time comes where a script is sent your way and you have to be on a plane in 3 days and be the lead of a movie, you're ready to go. Because you don't know, I think success is sort of when opportunity meets preparation and you never know when that moment's going to be. So just to up your likelihood of the success rate, you just need to be ready to go, like an athlete on the team ready to get off the bench. And that's kind of how I think of performing and thinking of just sort of what I try to do to get in the right headspace is just know that and trust that I've been working constantly, however that work looks like, onset, offset. So I'm ready to go when the opportunity comes. And that for me is kind of what I do. And also music. Definitely have like soundtracks for each movie that I do, each character that I have that sort of embodies different moments in the story. And I definitely had some hype music for this movie.
I love that. Taylor, for you?
Keeping a journal kept me through this movie, and it's not really just like journaling about my experience. So what I do when I'm working and when I'm not working, because you're always, like they were saying, you're always trying to work, how that looks. So I keep a journal for whatever I do of my intentions before I go into it. And then at the end of the day, what went well, what didn't, and then resetting for the next day and trying to take that information and carry it through so that I'm always keeping track of and no matter what I'm doing, I'm always able to use it as a learning experience and to grow, because that's all you can really ask for. And then, you know, you give 110% every day and kind of see what you're left with at the end. And hopefully by the end, I think with every project, you guys can agree that you're different at the end than when you started. And hopefully different in a good way. So I try to stay very conscious of how I've changed and how I'm moving through what I'm doing.
Yeah, I love that. Well, last thing before we let you go, that this movie, I think people might get something different out of it depending on what they've been through, and of course the entertainment values, you know, is the big thing. But you know, there's such an interesting thing about family dynamics here. What do you hope that people will talk about or think about or take away when they see this one?
Yeah, family, you hit it right on the head. I think On the Run is, you know, for me, it is a layered, dark thriller, and there are moments of tension, and that's the entertainment part. So I hope that people are both entertained through the twists and turns and on the edge of their seat, and that they're entertained, but ultimately that they, you know, when it comes to family, that they, you know, I think just recognize the strength of whether it's chosen family or blood related family, just like how you know, people can persevere through circumstances, and young women that are watching, you know, can see themselves through, you know, Sofia and Taylor's performances, and in terms of, you know, overcoming obstacles and being stronger through that experience. And ultimately it's almost like a strange coming of age in a sense, like, and wrapped in a very, very grounded, dark, gritty thriller. But you know, I think those are some themes and ideas that I hope that people take away and see the rawness of their emotionality, and they can both be excited with our characters and also feel the sort of lows and highs and journey together. So that's my hope, you know, the more people that see it. So
I love that.
what you
Yeah,
guys.
it's we really enjoyed the film and really enjoyed the time with you. We're gonna tell everybody to check it out, and definitely looking forward to seeing what you've got next coming up for us, and we're looking forward to talking to each again soon.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Paul.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. All right, bye-bye.
Appreciate your time. Bye.